Let's see if my jingle would play. Hey everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hi everybody, Cantonese Cat here. What's going on? Uh, yeah, you got the Bitcoin going pretty crazy here, and you got the miners selling off like crazy. What's going on here? Should we be scared? Does it mean that miners are done? Does it mean that miners? I mean, yeah, miners can very well be scams. I don't know, but I'm going to show you some things compared to this cycle and last cycle. I'm also going to just start talking about Bitcoin here first. Bitcoin's extremely bullish. I don't think I have to really tell you anything different. So this is the weekly chart. I'm going to turn off the volume here in a second. I'm just going to go for Bitcoin real quick because I know you guys are probably interested in talking about Coinbase and the miners and all that. And I'm also interested in talking about that as well. The key thing here on the weekly is that oh, by the way, I did end up selling some shares of Coinbase and I bought CoinL with it. Just I would say I probably sold off maybe like an additional like 10%. I put that money into like CoinL. So yeah, I did that. I think I sold Coinbase around 288. I think my entry to CoinL is around like 53.5, which is probably like where it is at right now. But anyway, the weekly chart for Bitcoin extremely bullish. Path of least resistance probably 100,000. I think it's going to hit this arc here. If not this week, maybe next week. It just looks like it wants to get there. There are a little bit of resistance here before it gets there, because if you look at the let me see here. I'm trying to get to the. I think this is a daily chart. Yeah. So you use a daily chart here. Again, go 720 and 100. You can see some pretty remarkable market symmetry. Like over the last 7 months or so, it just kind of stuck between these two arcs, bouncy balls. Finally broke above the arc, back test the arc, went parabolic. Didn't even care about this arc over here at all. Was hitting resistance here around 89,500. Was able to break through, and you got resistance here at the angle. So far, again, rejected here. I do think that this is probably going to end up just going to push through and hit like 100,000 here. That's what I'm really thinking. Like the angle doesn't really seem to be that big of a resistance to me, because it's just how parabolic this trend has been going. It looks like once 100,000. If it doesn't, then it might end up just kind of hovering around here between the angle, between the horizontal here. Consolidate a little bit, maybe even ride the angle up here by December. But I just see it potentially just kind of breaking through. If you look at a heat map, like this is like 12-hour, Binance, you can see that there's a lot of liquidation level. Like a lot of people are trying to short Bitcoin around with the liquidation price around like $93,000 and $94,000. So yeah, I think it's probably going to end up pushing through, and it's probably going to end up getting to this arc over 100,000. So extremely bullish, right? Well, what the heck? What's going on with like Coinbase? What's going on with all the miners and all that? Well, I'm going to go through a little bit of a history here in terms of what happened last cycle. I'm going to compare Bitcoin, compare Mara to kind of show you what had happened during the last cycle. Now, there aren't that many miners that were around last cycle that were trading around this time of the cycle. There really may be a handful that I can look at. Some of which I can look at is Mara. I think Mara is a good example to look at in terms of what's been happening. And I actually just find some absolutely very, very amazing, remarkable similarities between the last cycle and this cycle, right? So assuming you go from the bottom of the coronavirus, the COVID bottom here around March of 2020, right? You can see that the bottom kind of matches about the same. Nobody wants Bitcoin. Nobody wants Mara at that point. Since then, I'm just going to make a little bit of a comparison here. Since then, it's very important to look at this. Bitcoin probably came back bottom around like 4,000 or so, and then it just made a huge move from the bottom to about 12,000, right? So it 4x'd, right? What happened here with the miners? Well, the bottom here is around 35 cents, and it went all the way up to like $5 or so. So if you want to just be a little bit more conservative, so like 10 or 12x, whatever, right? And then once you got here, the miners, but like Mara had a very significant correction, went all the way from $5 to like $1.50, right? When Bitcoin has just a very minor correction, went from maybe like 12,000 all the way down to maybe like 10,000, right? Like maybe like 20%. Whereas like Mara went down like 60%, right? And what happened after that? Well, from this bottom over here around 10,000, went all the way up to eventually went all the way up to like 70,000, some or 69,000 or somewhere around there, right? So it basically made about like a 7x. What did Mara do from the bottom over here around $1.50 up here to the peak? Well, it went from $1.50 to like 82, right? So you're talking about this made about like a when Bitcoin is making about like 6 or 7x, Mara made about like a 50x, right? During the really, really euphoric stage of the bull market. I'm not saying the same thing is going to happen this time as it did last time. I'm just basically drawing some similarities between this time and last time. That's all, right? So comparing that cycle over here to the current cycle, right? Where do we bottom? I'm going to basically zoom out here a little bit. Where do we bottom? We bottom around November 2022, right? And Mara bottom around December, November 2022. What kind of similarities are you seeing right now? Okay, so let's see. Like you can see that, oh, but Mara has like way underperformed Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, like I guess so. But if you're going from here to the bottom over here from Bitcoin, you remember what I was saying, this cycle over here, Bitcoin made a 4x, Mara made a 10x, Bitcoin dropped 20%, Mara dropped 60%, Bitcoin make like a 7x, and Mara makes a 50x, right? Here from the bottom over here on this cycle, so far, from here going all the way to here, right? So Bitcoin went from 15,000, went to 72,000, made a 4x. Mara made a 10x, went from like $3 all the way to like $33, $34, right? So same thing, right? Very, very similar. From here to here, 4x, from here to here, about 10x. And then you basically had a correction, right? Bitcoin corrected from 70,000 all the way down to maybe 49,000. So maybe like a 30% drawdown. Mara went from like $34 all the way down to like 13. So it's like a 60% drawdown, right? So it basically, the cycle has been following the same exact thing. Like there's really no surprise at all. And you might be saying, well, like Bitcoin's going to hit like 100,000 now. Like is Mara just never going to make any like highs at all? Like is it even ever going to even hit this all-time high here? Well, let's look at the last cycle. All I got to say is I think if the last cycle and this cycle turn out to be the same, and if Bitcoin ends up making like, let's say like makes 4x all the way from the 49,000 here all the way to like 200,000, right? Does that mean that Mara could potentially make like a 30x? Possible, if things get really absolutely euphoric, right? Well, I don't know. Like I think they were constantly diluting to last cycle on the way up. So I don't know if the whole like dilution argument was really valid, to be completely honest with you. But let's look at last cycle here. Where are we at right now? Let's assume that we're currently just kind of finishing up the consolidation phase over here. Bitcoin went right off the gate. It started the bull trend, started going parabolic, really started around October 5th. You look at that green candle over there, October 5th, right? What was Mara doing at that point? October 5th, doing nothing. Like it just kind of went sideways for about 6 weeks after that, right? October 5th, Bitcoin took off, right? When did Mara start to take off? Well, it started to take off on November 16th, right? Where was Bitcoin on November 16th? It already ran up a lot. It already started to consolidate over here for like a few weeks, right? And Mara just started taking off around like, November 16th, after Bitcoin's already had this parabolic run for like 6 weeks. So there is going to be some delay here, and you can say, okay, so it's not a fair comparison. You just look at one stock. Or about like, can you compare another stock that also was around at that time? Let's look at RIOT. Same thing. You have Bitcoin going up, like starting this really nice parabolic bullish run on October 5th, right? What was RIOT doing at that point? I guess it was having a little bit of green candle, but after the absolutely jack squat, right, for about 5 weeks, and the Bitcoin just kind of kept mooning and mooning and mooning and mooning, right? So eventually, when did RIOT start going? Around November 16th. Big giant green candle here, a 50% candle, by the way, like on a weekly. And by then, like Bitcoin's already starting to kind of consolidate sideways over here. So the way I'm seeing is that like I don't think that you have to necessarily worry. I guess like you should always worry, I suppose. I mean, I can't tell you what to worry and what not to worry. You should always worry about something, I guess. But I just don't know whether or not worry about like miners just never going to catch up to Bitcoin's gain is really like a valid concern, unless you stare at your chart every day and like you just get frustrated from day to day. Like why are miners like moving down and Bitcoin's going up? I mean, you have weeks where Bitcoin's kind of going up like this and miners just kind of chopping sideways here, right? There's a October 26th candle over there that's like minus 16.37%, right? While you're watching Bitcoin just kind of mooning week after week after week, miners did nothing. And you get a week where you like lost like 16%, even end up buying the top of this range. Well, what's going on right now in this week? Bitcoin went up by like 12.5% so far. Mara dropped about like 0.78%. It's a shame, right? But looking at last cycle, look at this cycle. If you truly say that Bitcoin took off around here in November 4th, there's a possibility that Mara might even not even do anything for like another few weeks until it goes parabolic. I'm not sure if that's necessarily anything that you would need to worry, because like I've been told before, I've found to be like absolutely silly too. I've been told before that you don't need to chart miners. Just buy miners. It goes along with Bitcoin as a proxy of Bitcoin. It's going to be a leverage play for Bitcoin. Don't worry about it. Just buy. You could listen to that argument, and I've been told that I was like dumb to chart miners, but well, I mean that might still be true, by the way. But I just don't understand that argument. Like that they're completely separate things. They're correlated, but they kind of follow their own technicals, right? So I don't get the arguments that people are making all the time. And then now you're saying that miners are like completely out of sync compared to like Bitcoin. I think the same thing's also happening too with Ethereum. I'm gonna just go through Ethereum here real quick, because you guys know how much I love Ethereum, and you know how much Ethereum has been underperforming. So if you're looking at Ethereum compared to the last cycle to this cycle, is there any difference in terms of behavior? The answer is going to be actually, and because I'm bringing it up, the answer is actually going to be no, right? Because if you look at the last cycle for Ethereum and how it kind of progressed, it also is very, very laggy. It also is very, very laggy too, because you're talking about whenever Bitcoin was already, let's say, around here, right? You're talking about Bitcoin has already made its all-time high around, let's say, November of 30 for like December. Let's see, this candle right here. I'd say that Bitcoin probably made all-time high of this cycle around like December 14th, right? Well, where was Ethereum at on December 14th? It's 600. Where was the previous all-time high? It's like 1400. It's not even at like half of what the previous all-time high was, right? So at that point, you're like, oh, maybe I should just sell Bitcoin and like, sorry, maybe I should just sell Ethereum, just bump all and put all in the Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is what's hot, right? Ethereum's trash. There's no utility. I don't really care. Next thing you know, like NFTs and all that crap came in, and like Ethereum went up a lot more, right? The Yeah, but the same exact point when Bitcoin was being at its all-time high, Ethereum was still like less than 50% of its previous all-time high. I'm just gonna give you like a little bit of perspective here, right? And if you end up trading Ethereum to Bitcoin at this particular juncture, because Bitcoin's running hot, in December 14, 2020, all the way up to the all-time high, you basically start talking about went from 20,000 all the way to like 69,000, somewhere around there, right? So we're a little bit over like a 3.5 x gain. But if you're talking about Ethereum here around 600, it went all the way to like close to 5,000, right? So you're talking about like a 9x gain there. Late cycle euphoria, the stuff that didn't do very well may do a lot better. That's kind of how, in general, the cycles work. Leverage plays may end up doing better if you just give it time. And they don't always have to have like day-to-day correlation. They can have like week-to-week correlation, or even month-to-month correlation. I wouldn't necessarily be like super worried about that. And just to kind of keep in mind too, I'm going to talk a little about just the technicals for the miners here in a second. Again, Bitcoin so far, where is it doing right now? Hit the angle right now. So far, it's looking like it wants to kind of come back down to like 89,500, right? That's still a resistance zone. Touch the angle, trying to push through, unable to do so far. But honestly, I still think that this is probably not a very, very strong resistance, because on the higher time frame, it really isn't. Like on the weekly time frame, it really isn't. On a weekly time frame, it really looks like it wants to hit like 100,000. So I guess this correction is not unexpected, because you're talking about what is CleanSpark doing right now? CleanSpark has finally broken above the 0.618, right? had a nice bullish engulfing candle, gapped up, right? A lot of energy has been expanded over here. And if you're also looking at what CleanSpark is doing, CleanSpark, if you look at the weekly of CleanSpark, it looks very, very different from the weekly of Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin already has this Bollinger Band expansion, it already has this 20-week moving average curling up. It already has this bull trend going. Whereas CleanSpark, it doesn't yet, right? It's still kind of be like, I just kind of spent sideways for like 6 months and went down a lot and trying to recover my 20-week moving average. I'm trying to break back above my upper Bollinger Band here. Got rejected right at the upper Bollinger Band. Blah, it's still trying to figure out its technicals. So that it's going to probably take another few weeks for you to even really be able to flip this more convincingly bullish, which is generally why sometimes these miners kind of um, lag behind Bitcoin here. Same thing with Mara, right? Mara went sideways for like a whole year, blah, and then it's just trying to push. Like the Bollinger Band is just starting to expand. And you're getting rejected here about upper Bollinger Band here, right? Bitfarms, don't even mention, like got close to upper Bollinger Band here and didn't really, push through. CIFR is already starting, right? But it's still a little bit overextended. It just kind of needed to kind of cool down here a little bit. IREN, same thing, right? Getting close up with Bollinger Band here, getting a little bit rejected. WULF, you wonder why WULF went down like 13%, even though it was extremely bullish stock, is because it's getting rejected here by upper Bollinger Band. It just hasn't really been able to push through, right? BTBT, way outside upper Bollinger Band. This is a bullish chart, but it's just way outside. What are you going to do? Well, you got to wait for Bollinger Band to expand, or you might end up retracing back to the mean here, down here a little bit. But overall, this is a bullish trend that's just starting, right? What about RIOT? Even RIOT is very bullish. It's just way outside of a Bollinger Band. It's just got pulled back into a Bollinger Band here, right? So it kind of give you a little bit of perspective in terms of what's happening. For miners, they also got their own higher time frame technicals that they like these. They got their individual demons, if you will, that they need to battle. What is CleanSpark battling right now? CleanSpark is battling the same beast that has been battling for a long time. And what is that? CleanSpark is battling the monthly Ichimoku cloud. It has originally been able to kind of get way above it, but is simply just wanted to kind of reject it so far on November 13th. We still have another like 2.5 weeks to go to close this candle. We'll see whether or not we're able to kind of beast through and push through the resistance. But so far, it's not surprising that it's kind of getting a little bit rejected here by Ichimoku Cloud. I like the fact that it's trying to push in. I like the fact that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, trying to get in there. And it has to try at some point, but you can't really fault it on the first time that it failed, right? Over here, it failed to push through the 0.618, failed to push through the Kijun, but November came and is able to push through both of these, right? So one level at a time, I think, is what CleanSpark is trying to do. In terms of what Mara is doing, same thing, it actually, for Mara, is actually more the Super-Ichi cloud. Like it's trying to push through the Super-Ichi cloud and it got rejected. But that's okay. It's still kind of stuck in this big giant range here for a little bit. It's just trying to work out its technicals, right? Bitfarms, same thing. It broke about the 0.5. It trying to get close to 0.618, just really not been able to do that. But if you look at the monthly, if I don't do the Super-Ichi here, you look at a monthly, this is still a bull trend for CleanSpark. On the 20-month moving average, this is still a bull trend for Mara. In CleanSpark, and CleanSpark has not really, been able to touch the upper Bollinger Band here. I think it will, because that's where 0.786 is at. I think it will. Mara, what did Mara do? Well, Mara even just touched the upper Bollinger Band here on the monthly, right? Just simply not ready to kind of go higher yet. Bitfarms, it's been using the 20-month moving average very nicely as support, right? CIFR, what's CIFR doing? Well, CIFR is not doing much because it's still stuck underneath the 0.786 and it's still waiting for upper Bollinger Band to expand, right? But it looks like it wants to. IREN looks very, very bullish, but it's just waiting for the Bollinger Band to expand too, right? WULF, same thing. It's already outside the upper Bollinger Band. How much higher do you want it to go immediately, right? It's going to need to kind of take its time to work out its technicals. Got rejected here by the 0.618, way outside the upper Bollinger Band here on the monthly. Expected, right? But I cannot bet against the trend. I just cannot bet against the trend. BTBT got about the 0.5 fib, got rejected here by upper Bollinger Band here on the monthly. Expected. All these things are expected. Trend is still bullish, right? Just the overall thing. Right now is on the East Coast. Right now is 3:08 p.m. So you got another like 52 minutes of trading. before you stop the day. So let's look at the volume here. Look at the daily volume. I'm going to pull up the daily chart here. Look at the daily volume. Is CleanSpark volume that bad? Is this selling volume on like super huge volume? Not necessarily, right? I think even if we end up having some end of day volume coming in, it's still relatively a lower volume than this breakout volume candle over here, right? The way we gapped up. Mara, there's some slightly higher volume, but it's not as high volume as the last 2 days. Bitfarms, again, decent volume, but not as high volume as the last 2 days, right? CIFR, there's been no volume here at all. Like there's no volume for CIFR. IREN, a little bit more volume, close the gap, okay, but overall, gap close is a good thing, and overall, the volume is still not going to beat this breakout volume over here, right? WULF, not much volume over here in this big giant red candle, right? BTBT, not much volume here compared to what happened with the breakout candle 2 days ago, right? RIOT, not much volume, right? Close the gap here, which is going to actually be a pretty bullish thing. So like I'm just trying to say, like, I don't know whether or not it really is that scary as much as like what the numbers are showing. I still think that you have to kind of zoom out here a little bit and think about this as a bull trend, and just make a decision. Like don't let me tell you what to do, because I'm not here to do that. I don't care about what you do. I only care about sharing thoughts. I don't care about what you do. But I'm just like listening and looking at all these different like narratives, looking at these different things. It's just none of that makes any sense to me. I'm just here to kind of like unload my thoughts onto you. That's what I'm here to do. Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of gaps on the way up. If you're asking whether or not all gaps have to fill, I'm just going to show. I don't know if you're talking about like weekly gap or talking about like daily gaps, because all I have to say is like not all gaps have to fill on the way up, and there are a lot of gaps for Mara still hasn't been filled from like 2020. There's a gap here that hasn't been filled around like $1.24. There's a gap here that hasn't been filled around 78 cents. There's a gap here that got filled, right? So there's a lot of gaps that doesn't necessarily have to get filled on the way up. And even on the way up, like these gaps, they just left unfilled for like 2 years, right? Until like 2 years later is when you actually came down trying to fill these gaps, right? So I'm not sure if I would necessarily worry about daily gaps. Weekly gaps, same thing. Like not all gaps necessarily have to close. No, contrary to popular opinion, you have a gap over here on Mara around $1.26 that still hasn't been filled, right? So I don't know whether or not you really need to like worry. I mean, ultimately, yeah, this low over here around like $3 or so did end up closing this gap over here, but the gap down here hasn't been filled. If you worry about that gap filling, it didn't happen, right? So who is to say that you have to fill this gap right here on immediately over the next few weeks? You don't. You can leave this gap like over here, $1.26 never been filled. You can leave this gap over here around $3.59. That doesn't get filled until 2 years later, right? So I'm not really that worried about the gap. Now, if you're also asking me about candle formation, so far as Wednesday, it does look like it's got like a pretty nasty candle formation here. This is what you call like a hangman candle, where there's a big giant wick above and just got rejected. It's like looks super nasty, right? If the week closes like this, it might favor some bearish continuation. But that's what Mara looks like on the way up. I'm going to show you that. Like you literally have these like hangman candles over here. Like hangman candle, you have like another actually no, sorry. This is a shooting star candle. This is a hangman candle. That's a shooting star candle. You have a shooting star candle that's just very similar to what we got right now, and probably just kept on going up higher, right? You have all these shooting stars, and they like Mara doesn't care. If it's an impressive bull trend, it doesn't care. Does it look like it's starting an impressive bull trend? Maybe. What is it? Why do I think that potentially be the case? I'm going to pull another indicator that I haven't used very much, which is the MCDX Plus. It basically tells you kind of like a whale versus retail kind of thing. Not exactly the same as like like, oh, you have so many percent of stock that's being held by whales, so many percent stock that's held by like retail. It doesn't work that way, but is more like less like a little bit of like a momentum indicator in terms of like based on volume, things like that. So it's reflective of that, right? You have a little bit of a trend change over the last, like actually not a little bit, a significant trend change over the last few weeks. You have like a significant decrease in green and significant increase in red. And generally, that's a good sign. Like if you're talking about if the trend's been going for a while, then it'd be like over here, then you might be a little bit more worrisome, right? But at the beginning of a trend change, like I think this over here looked very, very similar to over here. You have just like a little bit of beginning of a trend change over here. So I'm bullish on miners. I might be biased, but I'm bullish on miners based on a lot of things I'm seeing, based on higher time frame stuff, and based on looking at last cycle. I'm not necessarily really all that scared by what's happening right now because it's happened before, and I just don't really know what else to say besides kind of showing you the things I already shown you just now. So yeah, if you buy, you might experience some short-term pain because yeah, on a daily chart, you might be like, yeah, the gap close, super scary. It can go all the way back down to like where it was just like 3 or 4 days ago. Yeah, sure. You also have a big volume breakout, you know. So I don't know whether or not it's gonna have to come back and close the gap. It could. If it does, you know, then it's not like something that you haven't seen before. I mean, like whatever. But I do think that on the higher time frame, on the monthly, there are some major changes because I do see like a Triton over here that's very similar to over here. That's very similar to over here. That's very similar on the other side. You got like a little bit of the same pattern over here on the other side. You got a little bit of the same pattern over here on the other side. So I think that you might, you know, end up getting some, you know, pretty decent bullish continuation on the way up. And I just show you a bunch of indicators to kind of, you know, let you know as to why I think this is important to put into perspective. There's another thing also important to put into perspective too, is I'm going to do a daily chart here in the last bull cycle from Mara after Bitcoin has made its all-time high around December, right? You remember December was I was talking about. And you started like this is a daily chart from Mara, right? You start getting daily candles like this one. This one went up 27%. This one went up 16%. This one went up 15%, even though it was a red candle. This one minus 2%. This one plus 23.5%. This one plus 21.5%, right? And you kind of consolidate sideways here, did nothing. And you have a candle over here plus 23%, like engulf all of these bearish candles over here. This one is 24%. This one's 31%, and this one's 18%, right? And then sure, it dropped all the way from like 25 bucks over to like 15. Yeah, that's just what miners do. If you want, and then it just continued to went from like 15 or 16 bucks over to like 80, well, all the way to like 80 bucks over here, right? And you're gonna have these crazy days where you're gonna have like 42% gain, like in like 17% gain, like over here 15%, 8%. You're gonna have down days like 10% too. You're gonna have all these crazy down days, 23% over here. That's pretty scary, right? But just kind of put it in perspective, like if you cannot handle these things, don't be in it. Because even during like a correction, they can be extremely brutal. Like even during this correction over here, during last cycle, it can be extremely brutal. Like negative 13%, you know, and then like negative 14%, negative 17%, and these can like happen day to day. Like 4%, 8%, 8%, 17%, 14%, you're gonna lose your pants even during like a correction in a bull market. And this is exactly kind of what's happening over here, with the exception that not only do you end up losing through price, you also end up losing through time. And that was extremely excruciating for a lot of people. So that's kind of my perspective on like my 2 cents into this. Do I think that things are just going to keep going parabolic and we're you know, or do we think it's going to come back and close the gap here? To me, it doesn't matter. If it ends up closing the gap, I'm going to try to find money to try to buy. You know, I'm not sure if it necessarily has to do that. Coinbase, also a little bit overextended here. Basically, what Coinbase is doing is also completely expected. Is trying to reach the 0.886 for the first time, and it got rejected. So what? You know, you go out, you ask a girl, you ask a guy out. I know you girls never ask guys out, but you go out and you ask somebody out, and you get rejected. So what? You can just keep asking, and maybe a few months later, you might end up going out with them. You know, you know, it doesn't. Yeah, it's the first time it's trying to break a value resistance level, got rejected. It's also happening way outside the upper Bollinger Band here. You get rejected, so be it. You're suspended in space. You're trying to pay for a girl's dinner with like lobster and like omakase sushi with like $20 in your wallet. You're not ready yet. You got rejected. You're gonna need to build up the Bollinger Band. You're gonna build up your wallet. You're gonna make sure that you have enough buffer zone to take the girl out. That's kind of what I'm seeing here. Do I think it's gonna happen? Yeah, I think so. Looks like you got a pretty decent job. Looks like you're sweeping the floor for McDonald's, but eventually you're gonna become the manager. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. What else do you guys want to talk about? That's it. That's all I really want to talk about. I just want to spend half an hour just talking nonsense. Thanks, V. Thanks for the experience. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Like today could be today could certainly end up closing as a very brutal day. Tomorrow could also be a brutal day. Friday could also be a brutal day. I don't think anybody knows the answer to that. All I know is that Bitcoin looks extremely bullish, and I think it's probably going to end up keep going up higher. And I'm not sure. Like a lot of people are saying, like Bitcoin is probably going to end up topping a cycle at like 100,000 or lower. I just don't really see any proof on that. Some people also saying that it's going to go like a lot higher. Also don't really see any proof of that. All I know is it's got enough energy to really push through this arc over here eventually, and probably get up to the next arc and even this horizontal line over here. I do see 200,000 being a possibility. And again, during last cycle, when Bitcoin breaks its all-time high, and if it makes from that correction there to like 6 or 7x, Mara went up like 50x. And there's like a 5 or 6 week delay, just to kind of give you an idea. The other thing that is also a little bit of a male catalyst is that IDBM is also getting rejected here a little bit too. That also really hasn't really broken above his all-time high yet. So these are small cap stocks. You're going to have to take into consideration that they're small cap stocks, and that they will follow IWM actually closer in Bitcoin. Matter of fact. So until IWM really convincingly mixes all-time high, it's okay for miners to lag behind a little bit. Again, just to kind of give you an idea, Bitcoin broke above this area over here, really start going very, very nice up, starting around October 5th, right? Like it's been uptrend since October 5th, almost nonstop, right? What was IWM doing October 5th? Yeah, went up a little bit and it just kind of consolidated sideways here for a few weeks, right? And then it had a little bit of a gap up candle over here on November 9th. By November 9th, you already had Bitcoin kind of went from 10,000 all the way from to like 15,000, 16,000. So, yeah, perspectives. I could be completely wrong though. So yeah, sell miners because they dilute and they're scams and they buy private jets. Yeah, and their earnings suck. So, could I take a look at Hood? Sure. I talked a little bit about Mara. I mean, I was basically you score back. I was just sharing with you the historical perspective of Mara and Bitcoin and kind of how they correlate between the two. But yeah, I can talk a little bit about Hood if I can find my ticker symbol. Hood. Where are you? All right, I'm just gonna type it in. A little bit lazy. Where is it doing? Let's see here. I got a Gann chart here. This is a weekly. Yeah, what is Hood doing? Well, Hood is stuck at this arc over here. It's finding support here 0.618. That's what it's doing. It's overextended about the upper Bollinger Band, so it could either come back down, break below the 0.618, and hovering back down, touch the upper Bollinger Band, or even lower. Or you can just kind of hover around here and correct through time. But this is a very, very bullish chart. Like it's expanding its weekly Bollinger Band. Eventually, it's going to be allowing the price to kind of push through this arc, but as a resistance. If you want to sell and try to buy back a lower price, you can if you want. I don't know how far it's going to go down and correct. It could correct all the way down to like $25, 25.5. Maybe. I doubt it. Could end up finding correction down here at the Sabichi Tenkan Kijun around like 29 or 30, possible. You know, could it go all the way down? Maybe wait for the tanking over here to get up like to like 29 or something like that. Certainly. I don't know how far it's going to correct. I don't know when. I don't know how. All I know is that resistance on a bull trend, if you want to sell and try to buy back lower, that's a strategy. But in a bull trend, I generally just get a little bit lazy and I just like to just do nothing and just wait for it to see what it wants to do. But it's at resistance. So matter of fact, if you look at like the monthly, at the monthly here, you can see like it kind of got rejected here, 0.618. It's the first time it's really pushed to 0.618 for a very long time. And there's no surprise at all that it's getting rejected here so far. It's okay. It's okay. It's the first date. You don't necessarily have to get what you want in the first date. It's okay. So that's what I think about Robinhood. But the trend is your friend, and the Bollinger Band on the monthly is expanding very, very nicely, right? So there's really nothing to be scared about Robinhood for a longer term. So not that you're scared because it's only gone down like 2% today, not like miners just go for like this crazy downtrend here, like 14%, like I don't know. Yeah, that's Robinhood. Actually, I have a couple of like, let me see if I have any chart requests here. I just knocked them out if I do. So I've allowed people to like leave comments on my YouTube videos and leave chart requests. Maybe it's a mistake, I don't know, but I'm gonna try to see what. Yep, they have a few requests here. So somebody requested something called DEGEN. I have no idea what that is. I'm guessing is okay. So it's DEGEN USD. Let me see the MACD here. No, I usually want to try to find the one that has like the most history. Nope, that's definitely not it. Okay, let's try Bybit spot. Okay, I think this is as good as I'm gonna get. So these are monthly candle, not much of a history here. Weekly, bullish, increased volume, and really breaking out upper Bollinger Band, lower Bollinger Band. Nice spread, right? Looks like it wants to go higher. Is it overextended? Yes. Can it stay overextended for longer? Yes, it can. I know it's not very helpful. There's really not much here to chart. If you want to do Fibonacci, I can. From up here going down here, you can see right now it's at the 0.618, which is where it's getting rejected. Understandably so. It might come back down to 0.5 back test before further bullish continuation, but it can just end up hovering here for a little bit and then push through. That's kind of where I'm seeing. Like I see those one or two paths. If it comes back down to 0.5, it's going to be like 1.2 cents, somewhere around there. If you want to like sell and buy back, or you can just hold off, because there's never a guarantee. With altcoins doing pretty good, it can just potentially push through and just get immediately to the 0.786. But because it's a little bit outside the upper Bollinger Band here on the weekly, I think it's probably end up getting stuck here for the week. But we'll see. Like I don't want to guarantee you anything, because downside to like 1.2 cent is possible, right? But if I was already buying down here, I would just hold. I wouldn't really care. Somebody wanted me to look at VeChain. If you look at VeChain, it's a bullish chart. Like there's really not much to say about it, and it looks very, very similar to a lot of the other crypto that I was looking at, where it's just kind of broke into the 2-week Ichimoku cloud, and it's been rejected as horizontal zone over here. It's been holding support here at the bottom of Ichimoku cloud. It's trying to battle the Tenkan here. Like most of these cryptos are actually looking very, very similar, and they're building up something big. I don't have any concerns over VeChain. I think VeChain looks like a pretty good chart. Actually, got rejected around the let's see here. Yeah, got rejected around the 0.382, which is understandable, which is this zone over here. And it just came back and just been bouncing between the 0.136 and 0.36, right? If it breaks above 2.7 cents, it's going to go back over to 4.2 cents, which I think it's going to do based on what I'm seeing. It's a very, very nice base behavior. If you're looking at the wave trend oscillator, you can also see it's turning positive, right? So it's basing, it's forming a very nice base. It's probably going to break through here at some point, maybe over the next few weeks, and going to hit the 0.382. That's going to be a battle zone. If you're able to push through that, then it's probably going to be 0.618, around 8.5 cent VeChain. And then 14 cents going to be the like final boss. If it's able to beat that within the cycle, then it goes a lot higher. If it's not able to beat the final boss of 14 cents, then that's probably where the cycle top's going to be, right? But I'm not going to bet against VeChain because it really made like a, let me see here. This is like 1.3 cent all the way to 5 cent. Like it made like a 4x, during this wave 1 over here. This is wave 2. I don't know how far wave 3 is going to go. I really don't know. So those are, somebody asked me about ACN. I'll probably do that one. My favorite doggy Doge. Yeah. I'll probably do ACH, and then I probably will look at Doge real quick, and I'll probably just call it a day. I'm guessing it's ACH is an altcoin because that doesn't make, yeah. Outcome pay, yep. Requested this before. Drew this GAN here, 180 and 0.002. Pretty good market symmetry from one art to another. Backtest to art, backtest to angle. Probably wants to go up higher. I'm going to put Ichimoku weekly so far getting rejected here on the 2-week. So you have a little bit of a headwind here, but it's reclaiming the Tenkan over here. So probably going to end up squeezing between the ARC and the 2 Ichimoku cloud. Probably going to push through and get to the level up above here, which is 0.038. And then we'll see what happens. I think you've already challenged it once, twice. It's probably going to break through together with the rest of the currency market. I'm not seeing anything bad here. Let me get rid of this again here. I'm just going to do a quick Fibonacci here from top to bottom. Yeah, got rejected 0.618 twice. Not surprising. Right now, it's trying to push to 0.382. You see how these numbers are important, right? If you're able to push through, then yeah, going back to 0.618. And then the final boss is going to 0.786, which is 9 cents. If you're able to battle that, then you talk about all-time highs. Yep, that's it. Doge. I don't really have a whole lot to say about Doge. All I have to say is that like the monthly this is the market cap. Let me look at the actual Doge here. A couple things. One is trying to break above a resistance zone here. And it's even how I have a hard time right now breaking about the monthly Ichimoku cloud, right? Last time what happened when it got to Ichimoku cloud, it didn't really care. But the Ichimoku cloud usually is a pretty strong resistance. So I'm not sure if it's not going to care. If it doesn't care, then wow, next level, it could be like, it could just make all-time high. You might get to like the top of the arc over here and close the Monday. You might get to the horizontal here to make all-time high. I don't know. It's hitting a lot of resistance here at the 0.7886, right? You break about 0.786, you break about the Ichimoku cloud, then sky's the limit, right? Hasn't done that yet. Keep getting rejected here. What are you going to do? Let's look at weekly here. What happened during the last cycle, right? Let me get rid of the GAN chart here. What happened during the last cycle? Well, last cycle spent a few weeks underneath the 0.786, right? And then eventually it's going to break above, and then it's just went a lot higher, right? We have just hit the 0.786 just now. Could then go sideways here for a few weeks, boring everybody. I think it's entirely possible, right? It's entirely possible those should really bore everybody around this range here and then just break out. I don't think it's going to break out this week. It didn't last time. It doesn't have to this time. That's pretty much all I have to say. If you're talking about high targets, I mean, I can bring out, it's okay. I already talked about it a lot, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. Guys, it's been fun for a random 40-50 minute live stream. I just wanted to share thoughts, calm nerves, maybe fall asleep because you guys really should just like sell out miners because they suck. But yeah, I'm not really that concerned. I'm gonna look at one other thing here before I go. I'm gonna turn off the drawings. Clean spark. So this is weekly Ichimoku. Broke back inside the Ichimoku here. Got rejected at the top of the cloud, right? Mara broke through. Right now you're above the cloud. Bitfarms trying to break through. Now you're inside the Ichimoku cloud. CIFR is already way above. IREN's already way above. WULF is already way above. BTBT is already way above. RIOT is broken inside, got rejected here at the top of the weekly Ichimoku cloud. Like all these things are kind of showing you progress are being made. And these kind of like plus or minus 10, 15, 20% moves may be nothing for the overall picture. Unless you want to trade these moves, then more power to you. So that's it. Gonna get back to do what I gotta do. Thank you for joining this live stream, and you guys have a good market close and do what you have to. I'm looking at coin here. I'm wondering if I should make another move. I might wait. I'm thinking about selling more coin and buy coin L, but I might wait just in case if coin tomorrow decide to close the gap here. I already made my move today, so I'm going to wait. The candle, top of the candle over here is 273.5. So if Coinbase end up closing the gap over here, I'm going to sell more coin and buy more coin L, but I didn't want to wait for that because it did touch the high up here today, right? So it may not close the gap. Like I never can guarantee that things are going to close the gap. Just look at how bullish this is. I cannot. Yeah, I'm not gonna play around. So, all right, guys, take care. Bye.